Morning. Quick history lesson of the day. World War II officially brought the United States out of the Depression because of the sudden need for equipment, hardware, military stuff for our country and around the world, and all the shut down factories all came to life. And they immediately ran into a worker shortage, skilled labor. There wasn't enough to fill the blanks. So what they ended up doing was taking one skilled labor and taking 10 non-skilled laborers, and they would teach them how to do X, Y, and Z, and they would do these rather simple steps. They make a team, and the factories just exploded, and they made the production go through the roof, and they say the United States was literally the arsenal of democracy. The unemployment rate during World War II, the civilian unemployment rate, was less than 1%. Basically, if you could push air in out of your lungs, you could get a job, because they needed bodies, because there were so many little steps in the process. And I was talking to a guy a long time ago who worked at a defense plant in Wisconsin. They made B-24 bombers, and they needed bodies, and they couldn't find bodies because everybody was going to the military and everybody was leaving. They even farmed out POWs in the United States to farms to work the land, which under Geneva Convention is legal. It was just they needed people, so they started scouring the countryside. And back then, if there was a family member of yours that had mental issues, or mentally retarded or whatnot, they didn't keep them at home like they do today. Back then, they would stick them in an institution, which is kind of barbaric by today's standards. But at the time, that was normal. And this guy went to I don't know what they call it, a sanitarium, whatever they call it, where they kept these people. And they said, here's all these people running around, what can we do with them? Well, they ended up coming up with a job at the defense plant. Now, trains would show up at these plants with product to put the aircraft together, because again, it was B-24 bombers. And they had, rivets and screws and gaskets and all little knickknacks. And a person's job was to put them on a cart and deliver them to different parts of the factory. So they tried to train them up to do that, and they would get lost. They didn't know where they were going and whatnot. So somebody came up with a plan. They painted a stripe on the floor of this huge factory that just went everywhere. And then at different locations, they would paint a large circle with different colors. Sometimes it was blue, sometimes it was red. And each one represented a different zone. And they gave these guys three-wheeled bicycles with little baskets on the back. And when the product would come off the trains, they would pick it up and put it on the basket, and they had a flip card on the bicycle, and they would flip the color red, and the guy would just watch the white line and ride his bike down the white line, and don't get in front of him because he ain't looking for you. And he would go to the red dot, and he would stop, and they would take it off and flip it back to the white dot, and they'd follow it back around the factory to the white dot at the beginning, and then he'd give him something else. And they did that all day long, and it worked flawlessly. And I thought that was kind of a funny story. And the other thing they found out is the B-24 bomber is much bigger than the B-17, by the way. It's got this big fat wing. It's a 4-engine plane, and if you get inside the fuselage, you can literally climb through and get inside the wing. Well, the finishing stages of the B-17, you had to climb inside the wing and finish bolting together, whatever, wiring up, whatnot. And it's not exactly the most spacious place to climb around. And I know my large non-anorexic self probably wouldn't have fit in there in a million years. I'm 6'4" and I'm eyeballing 300 pounds. I can't get in there. But people had to do it, and they went to Hollywood, and they actually hired actors who were midgets, because they have a group of them. And they came to the plant, and their job was the finishing crew inside the wing. And I thought, okay, let's think it outside the box. They could walk around in there. It was no big deal for them. So I said, you're coming to work, and there's 15 little people walking with their lunch boxes like everybody else. And they goes, there's your wing crew. Gotta have them. And that's just a little story I remember from him. And I'd like you to hear, just to know that that's how people adapted, and that's how people did their thing back then. And I don't know, it just made me feel good thinking about that going down the road. You have a great morning. I've got a few more things I'll babble about today, just generic stuff I get a kick out of. And I'll catch up with you guys later. Take care.